Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're looking at the latest missile we have in DCS, which is the Aim-54 Phoenix, the absolute master of all missiles. And it came along with the F-14 a few weeks ago, obviously. It comes in three flavours in DCS. The Aim-54A with the Mark 47 motor, the Aim-54A with the Mark 60 motor, and the Aim-54C with the Mark 47 motor. And there's been a lot of disagreement in our group and other groups about which one is the best. I mean, however you define best is obviously going to be difficult in itself, but which one is the most useful overall? And about half of the people seems to think it's the Mark 60, and about half of the people seems to think it's the Mark 47. The Aim-54C Mark 47. So these two here were the earlier versions, the alpha versions, and this one here is the later version. The main difference between them is that this guy here has got a smokeless motor, which obviously has massive benefits because the hostile can't see it coming. As well as that, it has digital avionics. Now, I don't know the full details of this. Well, if anything, I need you guys to explain this to me. But these two, the electronics and the avionics, are analog, as far as I understand. And this guy here it's been digitized. So by that, I'm assuming that this guy here is going to have a more sensitive seeker head, and it's going to be able to lock onto targets easier and track targets that are harder to track. Now, I'm just guessing that. I haven't actually found a way of testing the actual seeker head's ability to track the target yet. So today what we're going to be doing is just going over the differences according to the book and then testing them out compared to each other in terms of ballistics. So we're not going to be testing how good each seeker head is because, like I said, I haven't figured out a way of doing that yet. We'll just look at it ballistically. So first of all, we'll just go over the numbers by the book. So we've been over the names. They're obviously long-range radar guided air-to-air active radar homing missiles. We know that. So they fall into the Fox 3 category. The diameter of all of them is 38.3 centimeters. That's in old money for people like me. That's a foot and 3 inches. The length is 401 centimeters, just over 4 meters. Or for old people like me, about 14.5 feet, I think. So it's a big old missile. Now, interestingly, although this one's got the Mark 60 motor and goes a lot further, I thought it would be longer, but it turns out it's actually the same length. The weight is really impressive. This guy here is 447, say 450, 470, and 465 kilos. So around about 1,000 pounds, which is half as heavy as my Renault car. So incredibly heavy things these are. In fact, I don't even know how they made them so heavy. So putting 6 of these on your Tomcat is going to add 6,000 pounds, which is absolutely amazing in terms of weight. The warhead, as far as I understand it, all the same, 6.5 kilos, more or less, blast frag. The guidance, it says they're all active and semi-active, which is of course true. But we've said about the avionics in this one being digital and these guys being analog. The thrust is interesting. I work in pounds feet, so it's 3,360 for this model here, 3,826 for this, so that is what, 450 pounds more thrust with this, which is a hell of a lot really. And the Aim-54C with the Mark 47 motor is 3,534, so about 170, I think, pounds more than this version. So this is the weak motor. This has the most powerful motor. This one's in between in terms of power, but it's smokeless. Burn length, which is pretty important. We've got 27 seconds on this guy, 27 seconds on this guy, an extra 3 seconds, so 30 seconds with the Mark 60 motor. Ballistic range, 120 miles for this guy, 145 miles for this guy, and again in between we've got 130 miles for this guy here. Now, when you're talking that range, you're going to be firing from very high and very fast in terms of our aircraft, and you're going to be firing at a target that is high and fast as well, coming straight towards us, and we assume that he's not going to be able to dodge it. And even in just our group, we've already had genuine kill shots of nearly 100 miles, so these are realistic ranges. Maximum speed of each of them is Mach 4.5. I'm presuming that's kind of at the top of its arc where the motor's just about to burn out. We'll see in a minute. And a maximum load of 18G for each missile. So that's the numbers. Next, we're going to go and do some actual experiments. So we're not, like I said, we're not doing the seeker head today. Instead, we're doing the ballistics. We're going to be flying in formation, 3 Tomcats, and we're going to be firing at exactly the same time. One with this missile, one with this missile, and one with this missile. And we're going to be firing at just a non-evasive target, a bear or something I'll put in the mission. We'll be firing one low down and close, about 10 miles, or up to 12 miles against the target. One low down and about 20 miles from the target, and one high with the target high at about 80 miles. And we just want to see how the different missiles act in the different scenarios. So first we'll do the long shot at high altitude and high speed. 3, 2, 1, unpause. Full power, men. Follow Joker. Master arm on.
Friendlies, F-14, 9 o'clock, 1 mile.
TID. Right. Connected, I'm ready to fire.
Roger, I'm ready to fire.
3, 2, 1, fire. Okay, missile out. Keep going. Joker, do half a second out of burn just so we can catch you up a little bit better. You were still with us, Atomic. Come down a bit.
Roger.
No, sorry, that's your missile. Okay, so we are 80 miles from the target. Now, annoyingly, we're out of phase by about half a mile, so we're going to have to factor that in. And for some reason, we're out of speed as well. This guy's managed to get... We're all armed with the same weaponry, essentially. This guy's managed to get 50 knots higher. This guy's always is 50 knots slower, or 100 knots slower than this guy. So I'm not sure quite how that happened, but let's see how it affects us anyway. So it's quite hard to set these things up, so I don't really want to have to redo it. Okay, so what we're looking at is the different profiles the missiles will follow if they're programmed differently, and the different speeds. I guess that's all we can look at today, really. So let's stop it there and have a quick look. So this guy is 1700, 15, 1600, and 16. So that's interesting. Even though this guy here was going 50 knots slower than me, his missile has already caught my missile up. So this is the C, this is the Mark 60, this is the Mark 47A. So that's interesting. So let's see if this missile here, the A Mark 47, can catch me up. Now it's got less thrust than this one here, the C, but it is 20 kilos lighter. So so far that's actually already interesting. I'm just trying to get them out of the way of that bloody big box. I don't think I'm going to stop that box. Let's just move them away like that. So if this guy catches this guy up, then this guy is actually ballistically better than the C. They're all following the same path so far. Argue possibly this guy here, this Mark 60, is a slightly lower trajectory. In fact, I think it is a slightly lower trajectory there. Right, let's have a stop there. So I think they're still in burn. Wow, jeez. This guy here is, I don't know if I can do that, can I? Yes, I can. So this guy here is Mach 5.6, even though the encyclopedia and DCS said the max they could do is 4.5. So we're already above the max speed of what they're supposed to be able to do. So that's interesting. Let's just see if that was the top speed. No, it actually went faster. No, so its peak was actually there. Its peak was, for the Mark 60, was at Angels 51 and heading up at Mach 5.63 or 5.65. So that's interesting. And already look at the massive lead that we've got between that guy and that guy. It's already 2.6 miles. Remember, we only started half a mile in between us. And this one appears to be... Whoops. Catching... No. So they are 4,000 feet apart, and that's exactly how we've fired, 4,000 feet apart. And it's ever so slightly faster. I think the A is ballistically a bit better than the C by the looks of things. It's always been faster when I've been looking at it. And what speeds are these guys doing? They're doing 4 point... Interesting. So this guy is at 5.65, so an extra Mach 1.2 Mach faster than these guys here. Bear in mind, they're all at the same stage of their journey in terms of time. So massively improved. This Mark 60 is looking really good ballistically. Okay, right. Let's play that along a little bit more. So it's just stretching it out, slowing down now. I'm guessing the rocket motor's out, I don't really know. Still going up, 68, Angel 60. Again, I think it's slightly lower. No, it isn't, sorry, it is the same glide path, it's just it looks a bit strange. It's exactly the same path. So that's still, even though it's slowing down, still 2 Mach 4.8. These guys are Mach 3.85. And yeah, this one's the A Mark 47 is closing up now. And it's going to overtake me. So even though the C was shot 50 knots faster and half a mile in front, this guy, the A, has basically caught it up and is overtaking it and has been faster all the way through. So ballistically, the weakest missile is the C. Now that doesn't fit the figures because it's only 20 kilos heavier, but it's 20 kilos heavier, but it's 170 pounds of thrust, which is about 65 kilos more thrust. So technically, I think the C should still be going. It should be ballistically better, but it's clearly not in DCS. So we'll check this out with the other ones. This guy is just stonking ahead. And the difference is massive. Look at that. Interesting. Where's this A at now? It's at 61,000 feet. Mach 0.7 Mach faster than the other guys. It's going to drop down on this guy shortly, go active. The A has now overtaken the C back there. Still following the same path. Looks like this one's gone active now. You can see him tilting down. He's going to go drop down on this guy. So now this is the speed they're doing at this point when they're dropping down is actually quite important, because this is what the hostiles actually got to dodge, you know. So what's that distance? So 3 miles. He's got to dodge this guy at 1400, and it seems terminal's about 1400, a little bit less. So it's going to strike at 1350, 1360. Okay, let's see what these guys do. Strangely, they're actually going. No, they're going slower. Look. Oh, as soon as they had to turn, look much slower. So the A's, yeah, the A's punched ahead. It's got a little farther ahead, and they're both exactly the same speed now in terminal times a terminal, which I don't understand because they're unpowered and this one's heavier. So the C should be going faster at this point. So, and it is by 2 knots. So I guess that is modelled by the looks of things, but not enough. And we're going to strike the target at just under 1200. Right, so that's not at all what I was expecting. It turns out the slowest ballistically is the Aim-54C, the smokeless one. The fastest by not just a little bit, by obscene amounts, by Mach 1.2 or whatever it was the the A with the Mark 60 motor, albeit smoked. And the middle in terms of ballistic ability is the Aim-54A. So it depends whether you want to determine. So when determining the best one at long range, it depends if you want to consider this one being smokeless at the best, or whether you'd rather have the extra ballistic power of the Mark 60. And what I think is really important, and shouldn't be underrated, is the terminal speed at which we're going to actually be chasing the target. Remember, everything until the active part is not actually affecting what the target does. It's only when the missile goes active and warns the target that the target has to dodge. And you can see the Mark 60, because of its weight, or its potential energy, I'm not really sure, it was at 1400 knots when it hit the target, and these guys are down at 1200, and they both basically had to do the same thing. So extra 200 knots in the terminal phase is, I think, really important. So overall, I chalked that up as a win for the Mark 60 there, and quite surprising, I thought, in terms of its legs compared to these guys. Right, let's go to the next one, which is going to be at high altitude, about 40 miles.
Start the countdown.
Right, and 3, 2, 1, fire. Sail away. Keep yourself roughly on trajectory, and we will go and watch them on F10. Go on, 47C. Go on, 47C. You know you want to win this.
Get ready.
Okay, 40 miles. We're all at the same altitude, and we're at the same speed within about 60 knots, which I think I'll have to do. 40 miles from the target. Let's fire. So the missiles are going to presumably do a high loft again. See the Mark 60 motor starting to pull away in the middle. The Mark 60 is always in the middle. Mark 47A on the left, and the Mark 47C on the right always. Now this is interesting. Let's just pause that there. No, it's about kind of what we saw last time, that the Mark 60 motor is pulling away. We've got 2,338 against 215 and 2140. So again, the Mark 60 is the best. The A47 in the middle. That's interesting. Look at that. 47's taking a different trajectory at 40 miles. How interesting. Completely different trajectory. So the Mark 47 motors are staying high. The Mark 60 motor's gone low. I have no idea why that is. Now the interesting thing is, if we look at the speed difference, 1830. So this one's gone lower and it is faster, but why is it not ahead? Very, very odd. Okay, it is ahead, it's just that these guys are now coming down. So this is going to strike at 1500 knots. These are going to strike at 14 and about 14 as well. So it's interesting, the different paths the missiles took. So the Mark 60 slams in at just under 1500 knots. The Mark 47A at 1400, just over 1400 knots. And it's missed, question mark? No, I think it's just lag. It's just been laggy, that's all. And this guy here at just under 1400 knots. So that was an interesting one, that was. Don't worry about them not hitting the target, it's just the multiplayer server being laggy. They would have actually impacted the target. Okay, so next let's go and look at lower level at about 20 miles distance when we fire on the target. Just wait until you're in, I see both of you. Okay, we're going to go on 3, 2, 1 now. I'm going to power up to full power. Master arm on. Fucking.
Select the Phoenixes. I can see it.
Cap Phoenix is selected.
He's 40 miles away.
Right, so let's just burn for a while.
Look at the acceleration.
Bandit 360.
36 miles.
Hold on. Oh, I'm not on TRD because I'm a silly cat.
Pucker time.
34.
Right, I'm locked up. I don't know if
Start the countdown, there's a delay on the missile flare. Start the
yeah, that's actually a very good point. Okay, guys, we're going to fire in 3, 2, 1, fire.
missile came off at 19 miles.
Roger. Just hold it straight. They're going to loft, aren't they? I wonder if they're loft at 10 miles. Okay, we're 20 miles from a bear here. The bear was supposed to be down at Angels 2, but decided to climb for some reason. It doesn't really matter, really, as long as we've all got the same target. Not too important. We're down at pretty much max speed down here at Angels 2. We've actually got the same speed this time. 760, 760, 740. Near enough, I think. And we're level as well. So we did a bit better this time. Missiles out, 19 miles. Let's see their profile first of all. Appears to be the same profile. Got the 60 ahead again. Let's take a snapshot there. The 60 is 1600 plus knots, 1500 knots. Wow, 1400. So again, the A is outspeeding the C here, and the Mark 60 is over 100 knots faster than them. Interesting, they are doing a loft approach. I wouldn't have thought they would have lofted at this range, but they are. Stop there. This guy's leveling out. I guess they're all going to level out here. So we've got this guy is Mach 3.16 at 2,000, reached about 12,000 feet. This guy here, 90, so just behind in terms of speed. It's done really well to catch up, actually. And this guy here is slower still at 1896. That's the C again. Let's see what happens next. Yep, they all followed exactly the same path. This guy's, look at him stretch his legs. He must still be in burn. Because look at that. That is over 2,000 knots. And these guys are way down. 1564 and 1656. And let's look at the impact speed. Thump. That's impacting, still accelerating. Amazing. At just under 1700 knots TAS. This guy way down. 1300 and 1400. Can't quite see that. See if I can get that there. That one. So the first one, the Mark 60, impacted at about 1700 knots. I think that was. This is 1250, and this is going to be less than 1250. This is 1200. So a huge 500 plus knot difference between the Mark 60 and the C variant at 20 miles low altitude, which I think is a huge difference. Imagine trying, if you were that guy there and you had to dodge those missiles, and one of them had an extra 550 knots, basically almost a Mach. then yeah, that is a huge difference. So at the moment, the Mark 60 is king, but it almost seems too good. I don't know what you lot think, but for an extra, what is it, 150 pounds of thrust over the C variant, it almost seems way too good at the moment. The other thing is, how does it get that extra power out of the engine? Is it something to do with the nozzle? Is it something to do with the burnable? Is it something to do with the fuel? Do we know how it gets the extra range and power out of the engine that's the same size? I think it's been interesting if someone could dive into that. Okay, let's go and do the same thing, low down at 10 miles now.
Start the countdown at 13 miles because like I think what was it? It's either a 3 or a 5 second delay until the missile actually comes off. Can't remember.
Oh, I can see him. I got tally on. Okay, guys, get ready.
15.
Okay.
Bandit. 3,
95,
2,
12 o'clock.
1.
14 miles.
Fire. Missile out, Cap.
Missile out.
They still go. They still loft at 15 miles head on. Bloody things. Yeah. Useless. 10 miles, whatever that was.
Yeah, so it does. The missile won't go into the ground.
Actually, it wasn't really lofting, was it? It was lofting a bit.
Yeah, it's because the target's above us.
I'm winning! I'm winning!
No, you're not.
I am.
I'm winning.
Come on, little 47. Come on, little 47. That goddamn 60 is a pain in the butt. Okay, we're at 12 miles. I think we fire a little bit early, but it doesn't really matter as long as we fire at the same time. And we're slightly out of phase. Me and Joker are roughly level. Atomic's back here. We're all at the same speed, 750, 760 knots. So we're just going to bear in mind this guy's about 4,000 feet behind. It'd be interesting to see if it can catch my one up again. In case I didn't mention it before, this guy is always an Aim-54C, a 54A Mark 60, a 54A Mark 47. Predictions, I think they're going to be roughly about the same because I don't think the 60 can get speed up in time to make much difference. However, I'm usually wrong, so let's see what happens. So all firing at the same time. Now that's interesting. Look, for some reason, at 10 miles, we've got a completely different trajectory. We've got the Mark 60 going low and flat, and the two Mark 47 motors lofting. Wonder why that is. Don't have a reason for that. Interestingly, my one, the C, is faster than the A this time for the Mark 70 motor. That's the first time this has happened. Bearing in mind we all started at the same speed. So I wonder why that is. And the Mark 60 is only 10 knots in front of us. So this is going to be interesting, this one. At 4 miles, we've got the Mark 60 at 1730. Now it's sped away. It's nearly 200 knots faster now. So it's finally getting its legs going. The Charlie at 1554 and this guy at 1570. So this is speeding up now and is going to try and catch me up. The only reason it's behind is because his aircraft was behind when it fired. So you can consider these two essentially equal, or this one's slightly in front at the moment by the looks of it. And let's see, impact speed, still accelerating, and thump. This one is impacting at 2,000 knots. This one, the C is at a little bit further back. The C is impacting at 1842 knots. And this one is 1923 knots. So again, the A Mark 47 was, although it struck latter, it was actually in front of the C again. Okay, and on to the final statistics. So for the 80 miles head-on test, high altitude, Aim-54 variants. So we've got the Mark 60, which blew the others out of the water. Look at that, 3,245 max. By the way, I went back and got these results in a bit more detail than I did when we were looking through it earlier. And the A model Mark 47 just ahead of the C, as we can see, and about the same thing in terms of percentage, roughly translates to the impact speed as well. So great stuff from the 60 there. If we move on to the 40 miles head to head, high altitude, and then we can see that the 60 was actually less speed than the A. It's kind of weird. If you remember on this one, the Mark 60 for some reason didn't loft, it went low instead, so it's but even though it didn't reach the same high speed because of the more direct trajectory that it took, it still got to the target plenty before the other two, and it hit the target with over more than 100 knots extra speed. So it blew the other two pretty much out the water again, and the Mark 47 A model was plenty ahead of the C model. Look, you've got 150 extra knots max speed, and the impact speed was just a little bit more than it. So the C loses again in terms of ballistics here, 19 miles low. Maximum speed by 120 or so knots by the Mark 60. Max speed for the other two were pretty similar. And then a huge extra impact speed from the Mark 60 here, 1642 knots. And the next one is the A model Mark 47. And then just behind that, the C model Mark 47C. And then we have the head-on low 12 miles, pretty much the same thing. The maximum velocity in the one that hit first was the Mark 60A, of course, 2008 knots true airspeed. The 47A was just behind, 1952 knots, and as ever the C was last, 1872 knots. So that builds up a pretty good picture. Ballistically, the Mark 60 is proven in every type of test, assuming a head-on target, and I'm sure it would be the same with a different aspect target, as ballistically superior by a massive amount, much more than the figures would suggest, which I don't really understand. I think that could do with a little bit of talking about, really. And the A version, which should, I think, be, the 47A, which by all accounts should be worse than the 47C ballistically, turned out to be better than the 47C ballistically in all cases. So it doesn't add up to what we've got on the official figures. So I don't know. I guess I'll see what you guys think about it. That's the test done. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed that. See you later.